In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Shalom, dear friend. Wonderful to be with you today. My name is Natalie Blackham, and we're doing In the Last Days TV program. My dear husband is behind the scene today, Martin, and we love to bring you news and interviews from the land of Israel, which is an amazing place. And we've been here for 4 years and a half, and we're more and more in love, do you know that, Kay, with this amazing place. We started the interview last week with Kay Wilson, and she's again with us this week. And I'll just give you quickly to remind the people who haven't watched maybe the last program. By the way, you can watch our program on our YouTube. You go on our website, In the Last Days TV program, and you go on YouTube, and you can find different programs that we've done already. If you miss them, or if you want to look at them, or you want to speak to your friends about it, you are very welcome, okay? So Kay Wilson, she was a British-born Israeli tour guide, and she's a jazz musician. She loves music, and she's a cartoonist. She was the survivor of a terror attack which was terrible in December 2010, and one of her friends, Christine, died during this terror attack. Now she's a speaker. She's doing a great job. She's first of all a courageous woman, and she goes to speak now with different audiences about human rights and justice for victims of terrorism. So she's part of Global Justice Group and also Stand With Us, and she's a registered Israeli speakers agency. So Kay, again, thank you first of all for coming.
Thank you.
Take the time to come here and to speak about your ordeal, because it's not always nice to speak about these things.
It's never nice.
Yeah. And you are courageous.
So
And I will say again and again, because it's so true, and you love life. This is an amazing thing. Israel loves life, which I think they are a great help for the people, and they are a light to the nations, even for that. So you are the light for the nations. So tell us a bit more. We were speaking last time about the terror, what happened, which is, like you say, it's like a cosmic event, which is quite interesting when you say that, and it's
in the sense that to see what I saw, is something that a person, we're not built for that. That's what I mean by cosmic. It's like barging into the holy of holies, you know, seeing man take man's life, or in this case, woman's life. That's what I mean by cosmic. We should turn our heads from it. That kind of thing. It's something that marks your soul.
Yeah. And it's almost sometimes you do, it's very interesting that you said that. My daughter just had a baby, and you know, when ladies have babies, it's a holy of holy too. It's a cosmic event too, which is interesting. And it's like life. It's at the time of when life is coming, and obviously when life is taken away, it's part of something which is difficult to describe and put words on. Now, because of all these things, and because you live in Israel, you have made all these things from you were born to now. Your soul have been through so much, but you are ready to give to other souls and to understand more what is life. Can you explain us all about that? Like, you are part of these groups who are speaking for justice.
Okay, so I have to give it an introduction, all right? There is no meaning in what happened, all right? Sometimes to feel comfortable with our existential angst, we always look for meaning. Like, oh, it happened because, and now you can do this. I just can't see that myself, all right? But what I can do is make meaning out of what happened. Now, that's an important paradigm. And in Jewish culture, we have something called tikkun olam, which means repairing a broken world. All right, now, if that sounds a little bit foreign to the viewers, let's look at it biblically. Okay, you have Adam and Eve in the garden. And what does God say? He says, work the garden, you know, tend the flowers, make sure the avocado trees goes. So we are supposed to be partakers in this world and to make it a better place, right? It is about action and how we relate to people. So for me to keep my sanity, basically, and to bring as much meaning out of this nonsensical event, this terrible event, the only thing I can do is thank God and use the rest of my days, however long that is, to try and, well, to alert people to what Israel faces up against and what terrorism does to people. And terrorism, of course, hits people worldwide. And this is also why I speak for Global Justice Group. These are people who want one way of stopping terror, which I think is very smart. I see two prongs. One is to sue those who finance terror by money laundering, okay? These bogus charities and banks, and put lawsuits in the American court. That's one, because the victims of terrorism are also Muslims, all right? So, but the terrorism itself, you'll find it's mostly Islamic fundamental. So one is to hold accountable the people who enable terror to happen, because terror costs money. Excuse me. And the second prong is to bring to light, and I'll talk about my country, Israel, bring to light the incitement and the hatred that we find in the Palestinian Authority, in the school curriculums that the Palestinian Authority are responsible for.
So people are doing things against that?
Well, there's things like Palestinian Media Watch, and but because of what happened to me, I mean, you know, I'd like to alert the public, the world. It's like, how can we possibly have a partner for peace when behind closed doors, you know, they're teaching their children, and it's child abuse, that Jews are pigs and monkeys and this kind of thing. So.
And you're right. I mean, when you say that, it reminds me that British people are giving a lot of money for this kind of things that they don't know directly, but the government, or I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not an expert, but I know that some money from taxpayers are going for terror, for this.
No, it definitely is. But I would like to separate. I think it's helpful for me to separate between Palestinian people.
Sure.
I have some very wonderful friends, and between the wicked authority that oversees them. All right, and yeah, we must do that.
It needs to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Palestinian Authority are the ones who welcomes with open arms murderers who've been released from jail. All right, now what kind of mentality does that? If you want peace, quietly welcome them back. You know, it's so I do want to alert people to the.
So when it's interesting that I have few things in my mind when you speak about that. First of all, Israel wants to do justice, but at the same time they want to release some terrorists. There is days who are going to happen or maybe not to happen. So again, for you, how is it to know
that they might be released?
Yes.
Well, of course, I'd feel a terrible betrayal from my own country, all right? But I've learned also there's some things I can control, and there's some things I can't control. So it's a matter of, look, it's like when I was in court. I mean, this is why justice is very important.
Yeah.
And what's justice? That these people, and they are people, they're not animals, they're made in the image of God, and they've lost the image of God, all right? But if we call them animals, we absolve them from responsibility. But I've learned that to seek justice doesn't have to be vengeance, but justice is very, very important. Okay, so how would I feel? I'd feel that justice would be undone. And that would be tremendously difficult. But with that, I'm not a politician. I don't have the responsibility that my government has, all right? And I don't think that anybody takes these decisions lightly. With that, the last round of peace talks, I mean, all the Prime Minister was asking was for the PA to say Israel is a Jewish state, I mean, just like you have in Europe, you have Christian states, you have Islamic republics in Asia. So I personally don't understand what's so difficult about saying those few words. All right, so, but like I said, Natalie, I'm not a politician. I'm not. I can only affect my little world.
Sure. Now, there was something also, there was this Christ at the checkpoint. Because again, when you speak about that, and we live also in the country here, and we hear, like we're speaking, okay, also between last week and this week, we're speaking about the Palestinians are looking at themselves as victims. And when I listen to what they are saying, sometimes they are using the Christian jargon, are trying to take the Christian on the board. And like this Christ at the checkpoint, did you go over there?
No, I was too busy. In England, I was speaking for Stand With Us, which is educating people about Israel, which is it's a tikkun olam thing, a very noble thing to do. The Christ at the checkpoint disturbed me. Look, on one side, I really understand that every people group need to find identity and need self-determination, all right? Even theological self-determination. But as a tour guide who specializes in the first century, you know, the Jewishness of Jesus of Nazareth, to make Jesus a Palestinian it's a misreading of history, okay? So this was a historical problem I had with it. Secondly was the whole title, okay? Christ at the checkpoint. The checkpoint, if you only see the checkpoint, all right? And of course there's problems. You know, of course it makes sometimes life difficult. But it's far more difficult, really, if you're mourning your child who's been blown up on a bus, all right? But the whole point of just focusing on a checkpoint, and the whole graphics are about a checkpoint. And they were also false, all right, because people get the idea that the Palestinians are all climbing at the wall and they're totally closed in. It's not true. That's a lie that has gone in so deep, all right?
This is propaganda too.
Of course it's propaganda, but it's decontextualized,
yes.
all right?
Yes.
Checkpoints are there for a reason, because some extremists blow up civilians, right? So if it's kind of simple mathematics. Stop terrorism, reduce the incitement in the Palestinian Authority, recognize Israel as a Jewish state, but a multicultural state, and then we maybe over the course of time, God willing, we can take the checkpoints down. So the idea to take a Jewish man, a historic Jewish man, change his clothes, you know, and make him a political, decontextualized figure, all right? I had huge problems with that, but my biggest problem with the whole thing is, one, I have some Palestinian Christian friends, wonderful friends, and one man who lives in Bethlehem, because he stood up for Israel, all right? He has had his church bombed 14 times. Now, I met with him, and I feel that's such a betrayal to him, because he's also a victim of terrorism. And so when this Christ at the checkpoint, which is funded very much and supported by people from abroad, all right? First of all, it's a terrible injustice to Pastor Naim Khoury. And secondly, to welcome Islamists from the Palestinian Front of Liberation of Palestine, I mean, people who are behind the murder of Israeli citizens, to welcome them, to have them in your conference by association, I think it's obscene.
Oh, no.
It's absolutely obscene.
I agree. I hope that, again, voices like yours will help to speak to these people. But sometimes I read an article which was very interesting. It's like, don't give them too much publicity, because what they are doing is so wrong. And I was like, yeah, in one way, sometimes I don't want to speak about this Christ at the checkpoint, because more we speak about them, more is making them big. Do you understand what I mean?
I mean, this was also my consideration, because I published some articles online in the Times of Israel, and I made a big fuss, and the Israeli Foreign Office came up with a statement. So it's like, do you pander to their little things? But I decided yes, and that wasn't just for political or to reset, you know, distortions in truth. The whole ethos of that conference is this, that the Palestinians are victims and their life amounts to nothing but perpetual victimhood. And on an interpersonal level, as a person who has maintained relationships with my Palestinian friends, I don't think that's true. I mean, I can see myself as a victim, all right? I mean, my losses are huge. I lost a friend, I've lost my health, I've lost the dignity of, you know, providing for myself, I've lost my innocence, I lost weight, I lost sleep, I lost the ability to engage in the mundane, I've lost my sense of humanity, all right? So my losses are enormous. But I can then say, well, you know what, God, thank you, I'm still alive, what I have left. So this idea that to keep, how you say, massaging someone saying you're a victim, I think it's imprisoning them.
Yes, you're right, you're right. So we need to come out of these things.
I think it's really cruel. I think the people who
right.
join that kind of conference and enlarge their sense of victimhood, that we have to be frank. History has not been kind or fair to the Palestinian people, but it hasn't been kind or fair to the Kurds, to the Native Americans, or to the Jews, all right? Life is unkind, but surely we can develop a way of life where we can be thankful to be alive.
Very true. When you speak about that also, I know that you were saved by somebody from Magen David Adom, which is the Magen David Adom, like the kind of that Red Cross of Israel. The
Red
emergency
Red Star of David.
That's it. Which
Okay,
is
the
better
Red
to
Cross,
say,
just for,
yeah, or the emergency services
yes,
of
the
Israel.
ambulance service.
And the thing that I love with them is like they work to save life again.
They do. They're remarkable, and actually, I've become very good friends with the paramedic because he arrives in the ambulance, and I was so concerned. I had a little dog with me, and this gentleman, Dror Aini, have to mention his name. He took me to the hospital, and then he went back in the ambulance to the area where the murder happened, and he found my dog, and he puts the dog in the ambulance against all the rules, okay, and takes the dog home, stitches her up, and she does bed and breakfast there for a couple of weeks while I'm in hospital. But you talk about saving lives, all right, pikuach nefesh, the idea that you break the rules in order to save a life, and very much Madda. That's their whole ethos. Fabulous organization.
So let us watch your friend, because I find a video about him, so watch that for a while.
I came here in 1986, so I arrived in Tel Aviv and forgot to leave. Just stayed. And it's the best thing I ever did. And then in 2005, I became a tour guide. So we set off. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a beautiful autumn day. Me, her, and my little dog Peanut. Suddenly I see in the distance, I see two people moving in the bush. We start walking down, and I hear a scream, and I turn around, and somebody knocks me to the ground. He's stabbing me in my upper back and side, breaking bones, smashing bones. I can see my friend 2 meters away is trying to fight, and she's screaming and she's doing all she can. After 12 stabs they go, and then to my shock they come back, and one of them turns me over on my back, and I see the machete and being held in his arm, and I see it's like a silhouette, and it stabs my chest and it misses my heart by 4 millimeters.
We got a call that two women was attacked on Israel Trail. We come there and we see Kay sitting on the floor, bloody. She was frightened.
Dror arrived on the scene, and he knew, he could hear me saying, "I want my dog, please get my dog, please get my dog." It was the only thing I had left in the world, really, at that moment to hold on to. And he says to me, "Promise, I'll bring her." And against all the rules, he puts the dog in the ambulance, all right? But I think it's what we call pikuach nefesh. You break the rules to save a life, and emotionally he saved my life by doing that. Yeah, it's just like an angel came to me that day.
I hope that you enjoy that. And this is interesting because, again, there is a big political things we said, or newspaper and people all around the world try to bring this propaganda that Israel is an apartheid country. And I mean, like again, Magen David Adom is an amazing, when you know about Magen David Adom, or MADA as it's called here in Israel, is like you have the IDF, the soldiers, and you have MADA, which is the one who come every time there is a terrorist attack or just an accident or something, and they are there, and the people love them. They know that, you know, they are so important. And they have Jews, Christian, Muslim working together because they love to save life. So speak a bit about...
Well, there's this movement rising up, the BDS, the Boycott, Divest, Sanction, which is absolutely based on ignorance and hypocrisy, okay? Now, I like to say this, absolutely true, all right? Two Muslims murdered my friend and nearly murdered me. An Arab-Israeli Muslim surgeon saved my life. Okay, you want another idea that Israel is an apartheid state? Only an Arab-Israeli judge can send a former president, Jewish president, to prison for 7 years. Okay, so the idea that Israel has apartheid is not true. Is there discrimination? Of course there's discrimination from some people. Just like there would be in America if a white person meets a black person. We are xenophobes, all right? But that doesn't make it a policy. It doesn't make it a policy, and it doesn't infiltrate every single person. There's discrimination from Jewish people to Arabs, and there's discrimination from the Arab community towards Jews. But that's becoming less and less.
So you are speaking, you speak also with Stand With Us.
Stand With Us.
Stand With Us. Tell us a bit also.
Stand With Us, we have an office in Jerusalem, United States, and in the UK. And I love this organization because it obviously incorporates the Arab community, the Jewish community, the Christian community, you know, Israeli citizens, and it's an educational project, all right? It's not political. It's not political at all. And, you know, I went to tell people about what happened to me, but very much how my continued recovery is to be, it's helped by being part of Israel. I mean, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and I think people need to know why.
So why?
Well, me and Israel, we did nearly divorce after the attack, you know, because I felt like everything had gone. But one thing is that Israelis live with a different reality than a lot of people from other countries. It's so intense, you know. I mean, there's not one person who hasn't either been affected by terror or lost somebody in one of the wars, or is suffering under rocket attacks, or has relatives extinguished in the Holocaust. So as much as we're a community of suffering, we come back and we choose life. You know, what does the verse say in the Torah? You shall not die, but you shall live. All right, so everywhere I go in Israel, whether it's people being angry and beeping their horns on the road, or cheering on the soccer team, or expressing something about politics, it's life. Life is everywhere in this country. Not to even mention the land, the physical land, the desert, the blooms in the desert, milk from the desert, you know. So I how do you say, absorb everything going on around. And it's
so
slowly breathing back to life.
Good. And how did they help you?
Who?
Like you said, the Israelis. They've done specific things.
Yeah, I mean, Israelis have what's called longevity, all right? It's not that there's been a terror attack and 3 years later it's finished, there's closure. And so people are able to absorb what happened to me. There's constant phone calls. There's practical help. You know, like, what can I get you from the shop? You know, this kind of thing. Or we join in corporate projects together. You want to run a marathon with us? I mean, yeah, right.
This was amazing.
That was with One Family Together, who's an organization who supports survivors of terrorism. And this is another wonderful organization because you're incorporated back into the community, all right? Not just encourage. I mean, nobody's going to come along and say, poor you. But they won't like discount your pain, but it's getting you back to living, okay? And how do we do that?
And again, not as a victim.
No, not
like
at all as a victim.
Survivor.
But not to like discard what somebody's been through, but it's built on this idea of exactly what it says. We're one family. First of all, we're all been in terror attacks or survived. We are the survivors of people who've died from attacks. Secondly, we're not just, that doesn't link us together. As Jewish people, we're linked together. Also, by the way, they help Arab Israelis who've been in terror attacks. So we have the local, and then another circle, and then of course there's a nation. So, and Israel, we've always been a nation. It's we go through it together.
You're right. It's not like me.
No.
It's us.
Look, all our prayers, every Jewish prayer is written we.
Very right.
You know, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our, we have sinned, we have betrayed, we have.
Very interesting.
It's not all about me.
Again, Kay, thank you. We finish our second program again, just like that. Thank you for coming. Thank you to speak with us. And thank you to make us discovering more of who is Israel.
Thank you, Natalie.
And like Kay and me, we are saying bye to you today. And we send you some blessing from Israel. Bye.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.